If I asked you, what are the pillars for the fighting game division of SNK, the franchise that you can't refute? Many would say the King of Fighters, Samurai Shodown, Art of Fighting, and Fatal Fury. 4 franchises each cementing their place and importance in the company's history of not just the fighting game division of SNK, but the company as a whole, and even more importantly, the very history of the fighting game genre itself. Their contribution irrefutable, undeniable, and with those franchises arose the legendary 4 Protags. The scion of the flame and heir to the Kusanagi blade, Kyo Kusanagi of the King of Fighters franchise. The Ronin vagabond, always looking to sharpen his steel in the age of samurai, ninjas, and demons, Hamaru of the Samurai Shodown series. The invincible dragon, devotee to the Kyokugen martial arts and brutal discipline, Ryo Sakazaki from the Art of Fighting franchise. And the legendary hungry wolf, protector of Southtown, roaming this wide vast world for a good fight, Terry Bogard of the Fatal Fury franchise. Each of these characters represented their IPs for literal decades, cultivating a spot in the zeitgeist of fighting game culture. So much so that in the King of Fighters 15, when Hamaru finally made it into a K1 roster with Team Samsho, SNK made it a point to highlight that all 4 heroes have finally reunited. The company franchise players that helped put them on the map for generations have come together once again. An important and legendary moment for not just the King of Fighters franchise, but for SNK itself. A moment of nostalgia, a longing for the classic arcade era of the 90s, the good old days as many folks in our community would say. However, that was the old days of SNK. Times have changed, and with every era, there is an end, which naturally follows a new era. SNK for the past 10 years subtly have been introducing us to the next generation, a new line of heroes to take up the mantle from their predecessors, and if you don't believe me, just look. For Samurai Shodown, we have the dark vigilante Yashamaru, introduced in Samurai Shodown 2019. He is an avenger, protecting the poor and less fortunate from the tyrannical reign of the shogunate government. Having been victim himself to their misdeeds, his father was unjustly murdered by being decapitated, thus sending him on a dark and bloody path of vengeance. The King of Fighters, we have the latest protagonist in the long line of protags, Shunei, the lead of the recent Verse saga. A young man hailing from China, born with a mysterious, sometimes uncontrollable power, with a connection to an otherworldly deity that unfortunately caused him to be outcasted as a young boy. He trains alongside his friend Mei Tunkun under the tutelage of the great Tung Fu Ru, who was not only the master of Terry Bogard and Andy Bogard, but also for their adoptive father Jeff Bogard, as well as the Bogard brothers' longtime enemy, Geese Howard. He trains day in and day out to try not only to master his powers, but also better understand and accept himself as well. And we have Rock Howard, the lead of the legendary Fatal Fury franchise, the adoptive son of Terry Bogard and biological son of his arch nemesis, Geese Howard. Rock Howard is a young man who has been raised with the teachings of his caregiver, Terry Bogard, to be compassionate and do right by others, and yet constantly fights to suppress his darker half that he inherited from his father Geese. The evil blood that boils speaking to him, screaming at him to stop wasting his potential and take what he wants. Power is everything. And with power, you can decide the fate of not just yourself, but others that are deemed beneath you. Each of these characters have an obstacle to overcome, and I'm not referring to the story beats and enemies of their games. No, what I mean by that is they have to overcome the comparisons to their predecessors, the large shadows that's casted over them. Understand that when folks become accustomed to something for so long, such as a main character, it can be pretty difficult to get acclimated with their replacements, especially if that first impression doesn't wow them. And SNK are very mindful of this because of how they go about pushing these characters and marketing them. The King of Fighters franchise. The past 2 installments, Shunei being the main protag, who although is still not as experienced as the previous protags of the series like Ash Crimson, K-Dash, or Kyo, he's still playing the lead role and saving the day. And you can rest assured that come the King of Fighters 16, he will be front and center once again. Even with the community reception ranging from folks liking him to many feeling indifferent towards Shunei, with the King of Fighters 14 originally releasing back in 2016 and the King of Fighters 15 releasing in 2022, SNK continues to try and develop his character rather than giving up on him, especially with the King of Fighters 14 manga New Beginnings, which did a better job of showing off Shunei's character and personality than the video games did. Fatal Fury, making its return after nearly 30 years with Fatal Fury Seed of the Wolves, returning the cast from the Garou Mark of the Wolves with Rock returning as the main protagonist. Even within this long gap of 2 games, SNK made sure to continue pushing Rock in games like Capcom vs SNK 2, King of Fighters 14 and 15, among other media. He's even front and center on the advertising for SNK's biggest tournament, the SNK World Championship, where all these games are hosted for competition. If you made it this far in the video, I'm sure that you all are thinking to yourself, great, that's cool and all that Sam Show, Fatal Free, and King of Fighters get their new heroes, but what about the Art of Fighting franchise? You've yet to mention anything in regards to Art of Fighting's role in this new era of SNK. So let's address that. The Art of Fighting series out of the main four is the only one not to have its comeback, its newest installment to enter the new era. KOF has its new Protag Shune with the Verse Saga consisting of the King of Fighters 14 and 15, Fatal Free with City of the Wolves continuing with the Rock story as the protagonist, and of course Samurai Showdown 2019 introduction of Yashamaru as its new protagonist, along with the action RPG that is in the works. Yet, Art of Fighting has been relatively silent, which is interesting considering that these franchises all appear at SNK's World Championship Series, SWC, with the Art of Fighting 3 being representative for the IP of Art of Fighting. Of course, we do know that the new Art of Fighting game is in development, but to be frank with you all, we know hardly anything about that. We don't even know what genre the game will be. The most information we've gotten has been from the initial reveal of the game's development about 2 years ago or so at EVO, with Weatherford saying fans will experience Southtown in all its 70s glory, hinting at potentially us going back to the 70s, 80s, and then there's the interview from Neo Geo Now with SNK, and then revealing that the Art of Fighting game was still early in its development compared to the new Sam Show action RPG game. And mind you, this was about a year ago from that interview as well. Since then, we've gotten no real information or news about the game since then. As to what SNK has planned for this new Art of Fighting game, I'll be honest, I have no clue. I've got some ideas here and there, sure, but I haven't really thought of anything worth making a video about in regards to it yet. But on the topic of Art of Fighting's next protag, I definitely have an idea of not only who it is, but also how we get there. The game that gave me the biggest hint as to what SNK has planned for the future of Art of Fighting was none other than Fatal Free City of the Wolves. In Marco's ending of Fatal Free City of the Wolves, we see him at the gym helping Yuri out with the new students and such. Then there's a phone call and it's Ryo and Robert. Granted, we don't visually see Robert, but my guy is there in the background. What's important here are two key things. Number one, Ryo's look. For anyone watching, the Art of Fighting series and Fatal Free share the same timeline, just the Art of Fighting games take place in the late 70s, 80s, and Fatal Free starting out in the 90s into the 2000s. Point being is we see an older Ryo in his black tank top, which yes, he has been known to wear under his orange gi, but also hints towards another look he had in a different game. Second point, and I say even more important than the first, is when Marco asks Ryo where exactly were they going on their trip. Ryo mentions that he had it to Japan. For what reason isn't mentioned, but it did get the wheels turning in my brain. If there was ever a reason for Ryo to head to Japan, what could that reason be? Then it hit me. What big event took place in Japan that would catch the attention of Ryo? The World Grapple Tournament held in the Tokyo Dome, Baruki won. Now, this game, just to give a quick TLDR, also takes place in the Fatal Free Art of Fighting timeline, though originally this took place in 1999. Fighters from all over the world would gather to fight one another at this world tournament. Best way to describe this is literally the Tenkaichi Budokai from the Dragon Ball series. And the main protag of this game wasn't Ryo, but a certain red-headed grappler. No, not him. Guy Tendo. Introduced in SNK's Rookie 1 back in 1999 on the Hyper Neo Geo 64. He would only appear as a playable character in this game and later down the line in the King of Fighters 11. Hailing from Japan, Guy Tendo is a self-taught fighter using mixed martial arts like elbow strikes, grapples, kicks, punches, you know, the works. He's a young talented fighter with a very brash attitude, with many believing his design to be based off famous fighter Kazuchi Sakuraba and Baki the Grappler. How true that is, I'm not sure about, but it's fun to think about. However, with all that said, what is his connection to Ryo? Well, a key detail I left out is that Ryo appears in Baruki 1, but not as himself, but under the alias Mr. Karate 2, inheriting the title from his father, Takuma Sakazaki. Ryo in this game dons an all-black gi and stubble, similar to his look in Marco's ending. Not one for one, but it definitely gives that vibe. Only caveat to all of this is the timeline, the order of events, because like I said, Baruki 1 takes place during 1999, whereas City of the Wolves takes place in 2008 or so. But fortunately for SNK, they would be able to rearrange the order of events with Ryo participating in the World Tournament, seeing as how it doesn't affect anything narratively with Fatal Fury. Moving the events of Baruki 1 forward in the timeline being closer with City of the Wolves doesn't hurt anything and also benefits both series. On the one hand, it benefits the Art of Fighting because it will help introduce Guy as the face of the Art of Fighting series moving forward, and on the other hand, it also helps City of the Wolves with my idea of potentially Ryo's version of Mr. Karate making it into the game at some point. Plus, from the very rare and few appearances he's had, Guy Tendo is indeed a popular character that folks have been wanting to see make a return in some form or fashion, and this would be an amazing way to do so. With this, the new generation of the legendary 4 Protags will finally be complete. Rock Howard representing the Fatal Fury franchise, Shunei representing the King of Fighters franchise, Yashamaru representing the Samurai Showdown franchise, and Guy Tendo representing the Art of Fighting franchise. I'd say that's a pretty good lineup. There's more that I could go into, like what exactly would happen at the tournament that leads Guy to becoming the new Protag, how he could even possibly make it into City of the Wolves or even the King of Fighters 16, but those are all videos for another time. Comment down below if you're interested in seeing those. All that's left to say now is, what are your thoughts? Do you like my theory? And what are your thoughts on the new 4 Protags compared to the past Protags? Comment down below and let me know your thoughts. If you like what you saw and want to see more, then please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more, and don't forget to tap that bell icon. Let's try to get this video to 100 likes. Always appreciate it. Again, all of this is just my own idea and theory of what SNK could do, so there's no guarantee I'm right. SNK could just take a total swerve to the left and do something way different. We're just gonna have to wait and see what SNK cooks up. Till next time, I'm DecepySwag. Later.